Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Wednesday, December the 9th, 2020. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20, and good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. It is Wednesday and this is the day we usually facilitate representatives of the government. I have joining me virtually is Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Oliver Joseph, and we are talking, of course, Budget 2021. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning to all my listeners, viewers. It's a pleasure to be here this morning with you, Blossom, to go through the budget.
Thank you very much, Minister. So let's get right into it. Budget 2021, as presented by the Minister of Finance, Gregory Bowen, last week, Wednesday, a week ago actually, a $1.1 or $1.2 billion budget. So let's look at what the budget speaks about and what we can expect to roll out from the budget next year.
Yeah, thank you very much. So everyone has made a contribution to the budget, including the opposition leader, and there are general comments from the public. A budget is a one-year plan. That's the first point I want to make, because some comments have heard it seems that the budget that we present should have some long-term measures. While you might have some indication of medium and long-term measures, but the expenditure, the revenue collection and expenditure is for 1 year, which we call the fiscal year. And in the case of Grenada, the fiscal year runs from January to December. So the fiscal measures announced in the budget is for the fiscal year 2021. So the $1.2 million budget presented by the Minister of Finance has recurrent revenue of $653.5 million, total grants of $263.6 million, current expenditure $629.6 million, and capital expenditure of $503.6 million. That is what is going to be the revenue, the total amount. And when we use the word recurrent, it's because it keeps coming up and up. So salaries, wages, pension, these are recurrent because every month you have to pay it. So in a budget, you will have the recurrent side and the capital side of the budget. It is on the capital side that this budget places a lot of emphasis, because to get growth in the economy, you would not get growth on the recurrent side, but rather on the capital side, because on the capital side is where you have the projects taking place, the infrastructure works. That will create the jobs. This budget has the largest public sector investment project in the last 7 years. It's the largest PSIP, public sector investment project, and that is deliberate because we come in 2020 with a decline in GDP and an increase in unemployment to almost 29% now. So in order to get growth, you will need, first of all, you will have to create jobs. And jobs will be created in the public and in the private sector by additional investment, by projects. So 41.6% of the capital budget is allocated to the Ministry of Infrastructure Development, which we used to refer to as the Ministry of Works. And that is where approximately 4,000 jobs will be created. So this budget is one that is focusing on job creation. When you create jobs and people have disposable income, then they can spend more. And as they spend more, the government collects more revenue and businesses collect more, and therefore government collect more taxes. So to grow the economy, we must focus on creating jobs. And that is why this budget is different. This because we're coming out, as I said, of a decline of 12% because of COVID. On the recurrent side, also, COVID has seriously impacted government revenue this year. Blossom from from January to March, the first quarter, we exceeded the projection in the budget. So you have what is budgeted, and we have what you call actual, the actual amount you collect. At the end of March, we were looking real good. We exceeded what we projected in the budget. At the end of June, it fell by 50% when we look at the numbers because, in March we did a lockdown.
Right.
So March, because of COVID, 50% drop now. Grenada is a very open economy. We input almost everything we need, right? So it's very open economy. And you lock down the ports. Now, 50% of government revenues come from the ports, from the border, from the taxes collected by customs and other agencies at the port. 50% of the revenue come there. The other 50% from inland revenue. So if you close down the port, it means you close it out a major source of revenue. And that had a serious effect on government's ability to meet its current expenditure. And what happened there is people will say, well, you're collecting 50% less revenue, so how were you able to manage to pay salaries on time every month still? That is because of proper fiscal management in the preceding years. So because the economy was on sound footing, we had a reserve that we could have turned to and use, just like in your own personal life, you're saving money. So if there's something happen that you need to draw your resources. Now, the way government operates is no different from the household, If you're in a situation where you're earning less, it means that you will have to cut back on your expenditure or increase your revenue. And that is the same way individuals operate and the household, the same way with government. So it was a challenge to meet the recurrent expenditure having a 50% reduction from June to December. But as I said, because over the years we had proper management, some fiscal policies in place, we introduced the Fiscal Responsibility Act, where we set certain targets and we were able to meet it. And therefore, that is how we were able to manage, because the next option would be, well, two options you had. Cut your workforce, because government wages, salaries, and pensions every month adds up to 24 million. So you will have to either cut that or borrow to meet recurrent expenditure. But if you borrow to meet recurrent expenditure, you're just digging yourself in a deep hole. That's how you're going to recover from it, because you're not investing it, to get a return. You're borrowing. And so when we look at the situation, the first decision was not to send home any worker employed by the government, because the private sector already, the hotels closed and 14,000 people were sent home. SGU closed down, hotels closed down. So for government then to take a decision to send home worker would not be a smart decision. So we decided to keep the entire workforce, the almost 7,000 government employees, keep them on the job and meet the expenditure, and instead cut a non-personal expenditure. So we had to do a lot of adjustment. For example, international travel, well, Blossom, from the last time I traveled was in February. So the budget that we had allocated, of course, that was saved because of COVID. And we cut all ministries. If you look at the budget this year, a very small amount is allocated for international travel. The areas, a lot of other areas like telecommunications and so on, stationaries and all. We looked at all the areas where we could cut back on non-personal expenditure in order to save the jobs in the public service. And in the budget, the minister pointed out the various areas where savings will be held. For example, there will be no new hiring in the public service. Again, in order to keep the wage bill as it is, there will be a number of other areas that you will see cuts in the 2021 budget as we aim to manage this economy in this very difficult time. It's not an easy time. If you're running a business and you're collecting 50% less revenue, what you will do, the first thing you'll do is send home staff because you don't have the money to pay them. So it is a very challenging time we are. We're not in normal times. And the thing about it, because almost every country in the world is affected by COVID, it is difficult to get assistance because countries are grappling with the COVID, which is not only a health issue, it is now the biggest financial issue. That is what it has turned out to. You have to get funding to deal with COVID, to pay the public service, to continue providing all the programs. We have not cut one social program. All the seed program, the housing programs, all of them still there, continue to help people. Because the role of government is to lift the standard of living of our people. So for example, this year, we started a bathroom and toilet program, which is a project that is aimed to eliminate pit latrine. In 5 years' time, there will be no pit latrine in Grenada based on this program, because we have, in each constituency, we know how many people with pit latrine because we went around and do the survey. And the goal is to eliminate it, improve people's standard of living. Educate, spend a lot of money on education. We have not reduced the budget to assist students going to universities and TAMCC. We are trying to help more students in that area because education will help take you out of poverty. And so this budget is about people and how we could focus on people, not just the figures. As I heard one commentator say that these are only numbers. It's about people and how we affect the lives of people. That is center of this budget, because some countries have moved to retrench workers. But we have not done that. And so this budget, as presented by the Minister of Finance, is aimed at achieving economic growth and safeguarding all the gains that we have made and putting people at the center.
What about financing of the budget, Minister? I saw a report that we were seeking a loan, a grant of $330 million to help finance the budget.
Right. Yes, that's a loan. A loan. Right. So as I said, the budget has a deficit. It must be financed. You finance a budget deficit through loans, grants, increased taxes. We have decided not to increase taxes. If you want to collect more recurrent revenue, you could increase taxes. We decided not to. In the area of grant, the Minister of Finance has presented a budget where he outlined that $174 million to finance the budget will come from grants, NTF grant, National Transformation Fund. Because of this grant, it allows us to borrow less. So the $330 million as a loan to finance the budget. Many commentators think that the loan will have to be much bigger because of the shortfall in revenue that we are experiencing. And tourism may not be back up until 2022. We don't know if SG will reopen in January as they plan. Because if you look at the situation in the United States, it is escalating. And that's where the majority of medical students come from. So there are a lot of uncertainties. So the budget will be financed by borrowing $330 million EC and have grant of $174 million to finance the budget.
And the loan is coming from where?
Various sources. That is a total. For example, the IDA, International Development Association of the World Bank, that is the World Bank financing, they 25 million US is very concessionary. You have 40 years to repay, 10 years grace period, 0.75% interest, but it's a loan. But if you get a loan at 0.75% interest, and for 10 years you do not have to pay, that is where we seek to get our next 25 million again. And do you know that the first 25 million we got last year, Grenada was the first CARICOM country to draw down on this IDA loan, because in order to benefit from it, they look at your books and they look at the performance of the economy. They look at your debt to GDP ratio, because it's a debt, you know. So they want to see your debt to GDP ratio. We were able. In 2013, the debt to GDP ratio was 108%. At the end of 2019, it was 56%. And because we were able to bring down the debt, now that we're borrowing, the debt will go up by only 13%. So next year, we expect the debt to reach 69%, maximum 70%. And that is a good figure, because the benchmark that the ECCU use, Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the central bank, they say to the ECCU members, they should reach a target of 60% debt to GDP ratio. Only in 2019 we were under that. The only ECCU member that went under 60% was Grenada. So the target is 60. So we reached 69 in 2021. 70 is manageable. And what they look at is what is called debt sustainability. Could you sustain the debt? Could you repay? The World Bank, it's not easy to get money from them. We have to produce all the numbers. And then they look at the analysis that's done by the IMF, because the IMF are the experts in these areas. I remember we had to get a tranche of a grant money from the European Union. That was very early in the first term. And it was delayed. And when I spoke to the ambassador, he says they are waiting on the IMF report on Grenada before disbursement, because they do not do this financial analysis, so they wait on the IMF. And other financial institutions as well, they look to the IMF report because it's credible. That because the IMF has no interest in countries in adjusting the numbers, so they have confidence. And when the IMF put out the numbers, that is what they will work with. So when the IMF put out Grenada's rating, it is because of this high rating of the IMF, we're able to access financing. We are financing from the Caribbean Development Bank, and I say IDA, the European Union, and other areas. So it's not one place. This 330 million, and I like the question you asked, because some people might think we're going to one institution for 330 million. No, not one institution. Several. What the Loan Authorization Act does, it gives the Minister of Finance the authority to borrow up to that limit. So then the Minister of Finance now cannot borrow more than 330 million. He will have to go back to Parliament. But he has that limit. And he will have to go out now and look for concessionary funds, because the decision of the Cabinet of Grenada is that only concessionary loans could be taken. So we have loans, when you say concessionary, interest rate less than 4%, and we must have a duration of 15 years to pay. That is what we consider as concessionary loan. So, and that is what the Minister of Finance will looking for.
Minister, I'll take a question from the WhatsApp and expound on it. The question on, yes. Well, not a question, the statement on the WhatsApp is more loans again. And so from that, I'm thinking we already took loan for the expansion of the airport. We're taking another 330 million to help finance the budget. Our debt is already over 50%. How are we repaying these loans, and as you already stated, the economy is not what we would hope, what we would like, what we expected this time of year. How are we paying back this billion-dollar loan? I'm grouping all together, and the economy is still trying to find itself. Like we might end up in problems?
No, that's a very simple answer to that.
Let me
yes. So you're borrowing, remember what I said to you. I will deal with the airport loan separate. Let me explain when you borrow. I've said to you that the IDA loan from the World Bank is a 10-year grace period. I said that. We don't have to pay anything in 10 years. And it's at 0.75% interest. I've said to you that all the other loans are concessionary loans at 2 and 3% with a 5-year grace period. But we'll have to be debt, we'll be paying this year the debt that we have on the books. That is you. I will continue to pay. And in the budget, there is allocation and the recurrent side for the repayment of debt, principal, and interest. That is budgeted from the revenues that we are collecting, So when I say to you that the recurrent revenue is 653.5 million, out of that is budgeted for the repayment, just like you budget for paying salaries, wages, and supplies and goods. That is within that figure. There, we collect to pay. So that's what I'm saying. It's not a difficult thing to understand now. Growth, I explained that the growth in debt to GDP will reach 69. So when you say it was 108 and we brought it down, the ECCB guideline is 60. Most ECCU countries are over 70. So we're in a good position where we could manage our finances because it is not going up to 100% or above 100. And we cannot take it anyway because we have the fiscal responsibility law that guides us. And the financial institutions will not give you money if you are not disciplined. They do not see your ability to repay. So we are in a sound financial situation despite COVID and the reduction in revenue, and we have to produce a budget with a deficit because of sound and proper fiscal management. We will be able to manage. Now to the airport loan. The airport loan is not a loan incurred by the government of Grenada. The airport loan is incurred by the Grenada Airports Authority. The only how Grenada comes in is if they default. Only if they default, right? The government will then have to step in. But that again is a loan of 15 years and 5 years grace period. For these 5 years, no payment,
Well, that's piece of the information that we were missing, the grace period for the repayment of the loan to the airport.
5 years and at 2%, 5 years, 2%, and then 10 years after the grace period, 10 years to continue pay. If they default, that is only how it becomes a debt to the government. But it is a commercial loan. This loan was negotiated with Exim Bank of China. When they negotiate a loan with a bank, they look at all the performance, the fiscal performance of the airport, to determine first of all the quantum of the loan, the amount they could give you. And said, based on what we are seeing, you could only get 67 million, we cannot give you more. The World Bank, the loan to Grenada, the World Bank allocated $19 million towards the airport in this loan I'm talking about, because what we wanted to do is say, listen, do everything at once. The 67 million can't do it, we will give you $19 million. When the World Bank give you money, as I tell you, they analyze all your figures, all the fiscal situation to look at it. So that portion is for the government. It was given to the government, but the $67 million is to the Grenada Airport Authority, and they have a 5-year grace period to pay.
And something else you said before we go to the break, and before we get to the questions from our viewers and listeners. You mentioned or you reiterated that there were no new taxes announced in the budget. But
Yes.
in his remarks on Monday, Prime Minister Mitchell pointed out that he would be setting up a committee to review the taxes. So
The fees.
the fees. So
Fees,
that
yeah,
has
fees.
me
No review. We said to
squinting.
review. No to review fees. There are fees there that you pay $2 or something. I think some other to get some record you pay $1.50
so
or $5.
so that
They
review
refuse a
could come
complete
with
review of the fees.
so the review can come with maybe a reduction in some but an increase in some.
We don't know what the review will say. But you review it and you don't even know if you'll implement it this year. If the review starts in 2021, it may be that in the 2022 budget, you may implement some fees, but these are fees, they are not taxes that are going to be imposed on the people. You don't pay the fees if you don't want the service, it's just like tax. Plus, if you don't have property, you don't pay property tax. If you don't have a driver's license, you don't have to pay motor vehicle license because you have a vehicle. Alright? So, the fees is referring to the revision, and I think every so often we should review these fees. You know, sometimes you're going to pay, you apply for a birth certificate, I tell you to bring a $5 stamp and $2, I think, for the search fee or something like that. A lot of areas, and the court, the court, the regional court, OECS, Supreme Court, they are looking at the fees. They say court fees have not changed in 20 years for the services provided by the court. So it's not wrong in reviewing fees. But we are saying in this budget, there are no new taxes. And that is why some people say it's an election budget, you know, I'll show you that remark.
Yes,
They cannot believe that with a drop in revenue by 50%, you're not raising taxes to raise more revenue. When you raise taxes, you give people less disposable income in their pocket. And we do not want to take away disposable income from people, because when they have disposable income, they will spend more in the economy.
All right, on that note, let's take a break and then come back and continue the discussion with Minister of Foreign Affairs Oliver Joseph. We're looking at Budget 2021 following last week's presentation. To the point, we'll be right back.
We believe this new virus spreads mostly from person to person through respiratory droplets produced when someone who is sick coughs or sneezes. This is similar to how flu and other respiratory illnesses spread. These droplets can land in the mouth or nose of people nearby, or possibly be inhaled into the lungs. Most person-to-person spread happens when people are in close contact. It's also possible that this virus can spread when someone touches a contaminated surface and then touches the mouth, nose, or eyes.
We got them trees light. It's a ragamuffin kind of Christmas.
Yo, Shaggy, one up every time. Grenada, GBN, salute.
Protect yourself and our community from COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol. Use a tissue when blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing. Immediately discard the tissue properly and wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Let's do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. To stay up to date, visit the Government of Grenada's webpage or the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. For more information, contact the Ministry of Health's hotline by calling 53-VIRUS. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with Minister of Foreign Affairs Oliver Joseph in relation to the 2021 budget, which was presented last week by the Minister of Finance, Gregory Bowen. At this point in the program, we are going to open the phone lines and our social media for questions from our viewers and listeners. 435-2041, that's the landline number. That's also the WhatsApp number. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. You can also post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on Facebook and YouTube. And as always, I would implore upon each and every one of you to continue to be respectful. Let's go to our first caller. And callers, if we can please keep our questions to, let's say, a minute and a half or less, so we can get to the many calls that have been coming in since the program started. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning. And good morning to the Honorable Oliver Joseph.
Hey, good morning.
I just want to congratulate you. I heard you on your budget presentation, and it was very informative. And also, there was a little humor in it, which made me very laughable. And I just want to say that keep it up. And the information given here this morning, I'm very much impressed with it, especially talking about the loan for the airport. I believe much discussions will be held, because some of our opposing forces, detractors, are just blowing things out of proportion. And I want to say this budget is not a certain man one time say, but a $1 billion budget, and then they say, where you getting money from? And he say, trust me. But I want to say hats off to you and the administration in terms of the budget presentation. And I know with good implementation strategies, I know we will do it again. So, Minister, I want you to be courageous and keep free, safe, COVID-free, and we look forward hearing from you, in the future, you and the new National Party administration team. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you very much, caller.
There's a question on Facebook. Okay, so I'll adjust it a little bit. Have you and your other cabinet colleagues considered taking a pay cut in these COVIDious times?
When you say a pay cut, that means you do not understand the pay. If that was not the information of the salaries of minister, I will use myself as an example. I was a permanent secretary up to 2012. I became a minister in 2013 and had a pay cut of almost $1,000, because that is the difference between the permanent secretary and the minister's salary. I thought I was promoted when I was appointed as minister, but if you get a promotion, you're supposed to get an increase. I got a reduction because minister's salaries are so low. If you take 15 of us, you take a 10, you take on 1,000, 15,000. It's talking. Yeah. So I think before people make that sort of comment, I think they need to have the facts. Because if I was in this for money, I would never be in this job. I would never be in this job, I tell you, because if it was for money, I had a regional job that was paying me twice the amount of money I'm getting as a minister. So to us ministers, the thing is a joke. That means there is a lack of understanding of how much ministers get. We are the lowest paid ministers in the whole of CARICOM. And the person who go and Google it easily and see that. So you know, see, the call is just more emotional or sentimental, not factual. Let's deal with the facts.
Somebody on WhatsApp is asking, on Beyond the Headlines on GBN on Monday, members of the panel, the youth panel, expressed their disappointment in the budget because they say they saw nothing in it that will address the issues of the little everyday man and their living standards, but all about the investors and concrete and tourism, which is dying a slow death because of COVID. The question is, what would you say to the young people that are saying it was a sweatshop budget?
I would say to them, and do their own analysis. Don't be driven by the opinion of people who have political motives. Because to make such a statement must be for political motive. We have invested more money into the youth budget this year. We have not cut back at any social programs for the people. We had the largest debushing program ever this year to put money in the pockets of the working class people. So everything we have done if the young people, what they should have done, go through the budget, look at the numbers, look at the programs for youth. There's so many programs for young people, and add up the various votes on the youth, and then draw their own conclusion. That is what you need to see. You need to understand there's people that will make statements for various reasons. If you're in an opposition party, you will try to make it look as though this budget didn't have nothing to convince people. But if people must do their own analysis, must look at the figures for themselves. And you have a lot of bright young people who went to university and come back, have a group, and do a proper analysis without being influenced by the political views of other people because they have self-interest. This budget is a people's budget because the first thing is we did not send home a single worker. The second thing, we have not cut back at any of the social programs. The third thing, we have increased expenditure on youth. It's about the people, about the young, about empowering people. This government has secured the most scholarship for Grenadians. SGU numbers have doubled because every year we request more and more from St. George's University. The People's Republic of China has come on board to offer scholarship. Cuba continues even during this COVID time. Cuba still offered our students, our people scholarship to pursue university degree. And we are seeing more and more students attending SGU with assistance from the government and T.A. Marshall Community College. When I look at what my biggest, I always say that success is not the infrastructure work, it's the amount of young people that this government and the people from my constituency were able to access the funding to go to TAMCC, SGU, China, and Cuba, and these places. That is my biggest achievement. I'm proud to see the number of students from St. David's studying in China and Cuba and SGU. And the number of them that are going to TAMCC. That's how we go. That's how we lifting people up. And I mentioned to you this flagship program, toilet and bathroom getting read. $5 million allocated for bathroom and toilet in this budget. So to say that it's not about people, I think is not really analytical. It lacks depth.
Good morning, caller. Okay, lost that caller. Let's go to Facebook. I'm taking one around. Somebody on Facebook, all these loans taking not a factory or agro-processing plant for young people, and there is no job security in Grenada. People can't go in the banks and get loans because government work is contract work.
Yeah, again, what percentage of government work as contract? Government employs approximately 6,700 people. That's everyone that is paid by the state. So we include the civil servants, police, teachers, nurses, everyone. Prison officers, you go on and on, paid by the state. In that number, less than 10% have contract. Less than 10% have contract. So when you say there is no job security, you will think that the person talking about 90% of the workforce has contract, That is not the case. Again, a simple examination of the numbers will reveal that the amount of people on contract is less than 10%. And even with the people on contract, they are grateful at least they have a job, that they can meet their commitments every month, that they can take care of their family, even if it's a contract. They're still earning an income from the government. That is what is going to help them and help the family. So when I hear these statements, I just wish that, as I said, we gave more facts, people, facts based, so that we can respond. If you want to challenge me on the facts and the figures, I'm happy to deal with that. Bring forth your information, and I will quote the source of mine, and you can always check it to verify.
Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning, Citizen Welch, and to your guest. But first of all, let me establish it. I would like to guarantee, Citizen Welch, that your guest can hear me, because I've noticed quite conveniently in recent times that when I speak, nobody hears me on the other side. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, caller, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Thank you very much. There are three issues I'd like to. Good morning to you. First of all, you mentioned to us the surplus. You recall that, and I recall you telling us these words. It is because we had a surplus that we could have done certain things. Now, what do you really mean by that? Because I think what you really, no, I wouldn't tell you what you really wanted to say. Because if you tell me you could have done something, that means you had not done it. I urge you to pay a little attention to the use of the structured could have, should have, and would have in English language, please, because you're giving us spurious information. Number two. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years that in the little village of Simon Bolivar in La Calome, the sewer system has been broken. Over 10 years. There was a time, as a matter of fact, complaints have been made by people who do not even live inside it, with full knowledge that the sewerage, shit water, in other words, runs out of the system, the broken system, into the drain, into the river, down the river, into the mangrove swamp on the southeast coast of the country. A lot of promises have been made, and up to now, nothing is being done. Have you an answer to that, sir? The other thing is this, finally. Well, there are two others, really, but I'll be brief. One, for time and eternity, we've been complaining about certain electricity poles lacking the lighting for the village. Numbers of the poles have been produced to your people in your office up there. Nothing is being done. Question is why? And I would like to know finally, why is it that when they clean the village, they only clean one side and they leave the side to the north, or should I say the northeastern side, up by where the little plaza or monument is, nobody does anything. There's been over a year. Can you put some light on that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister?
Yeah, thank you very much, caller. The first one is surplus. So you get a surplus. So we said on the recurrent side, you have your recurrent budget. So if you budget in 2020 to collect $300 million, and you collected, and you plan to spend $300 million, and you collected $325 million, we'll say that we had a surplus, a recurrent surplus of $25 million. You could have a recurrent surplus and still have an overall deficit, depending on how you perform on the capital side. But we're saying that we had a recurrent surplus. Sometimes it was 3% to GDP, at one time it was 5%. That is what I meant. We got to the sewer problem. The caller is aware that a number of attempts have been made to resolve the problem. Must admit, we have brought in now private engineers to correct the problem, and it still exists, not to the same extent, but you still have some issues there, and we will continue to give full attention to this problem. With respect to street lights, the way the street lights operate is that Great Lake will bring in the lights and install on the poles. We have made several requests for lights, not only St. David's, through all Grenada. Every MP complains. We have not had a positive response from Great Lake in terms of responding to our request to put on lights to the poles. And finally, to your final point about cleaning not all the areas, I am not sure which area, the areas that are cleaned up, because that is under the Ministry of Works, and you have the road officer that will go around and have the area designated for cleaning. So I will have to look into this one, because I am not aware that that is happening.
Landline, Facebook, WhatsApp. Somebody on WhatsApp is asking, is it true that the IDA loans that you spoke about, is it not directed to poverty-stricken countries like Haiti?
IDA loan is available to all developing countries in attack, not just Haiti. The number of almost every Caribbean country applied for IDA loan because it's so concessionary, but you have to meet certain targets. As I explained, I wouldn't want to repeat what I said with the IDA loan, the long period and the interest rate. But you could use the money for budgetary support. So you could use the money to help alleviate poverty. It's up to the government. If you get loan for budgetary support, you could choose what area you're going to allocate the money to. So it could be allocated to, yes, poverty reduction, and other areas that the cabinet decide that these are the areas in which the loan will go towards. But it's not because of the poverty situation Grenada got the loan, because of our fiscal performance that we're able to access the loan. That is the reason.
And the person is also asking, in relation to the airport loan, didn't the government not sign a guarantee to Exim Bank because airport finances could not service the loan?
You do not sign a guarantee because the airport cannot service the loan. A guarantee is just what it is. It's like if you tell me come and stand security for you to take a loan, it's the same thing. It's not because I think you don't have enough money to repay it. But the bank requires that if you default, they can hold someone else accountable. So in the case of the airport loan, I will reiterate, if there is any default, so the 5 years grace period, and then they start paying back the loan, and it only come as a call on the government, a lien on the government, if there is a default in the loan repayment.
Landline, good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning. Good morning to you, Mr. Oliver. Mr. Oliver, listening to you all saying you are not hiring anybody. Mr. Oliver, that is not true, because the amount of warden that out, to me, this is high. Mr. Oliver, if you giving me $100 and I don't have a job, and I come and I get a job now, I come out from $100 and I get a job, so I own in my own $100, I see that's the way of taking me out from the help. But if I'm not getting a job, how you expect to help me come out of this situation? And Mr. Oliver, if you send children to study, after they come back, the children sit down, they have no job. How are you helping these children from moving from poverty or moving to the lower level, to the higher level? Mr. Oliver, anything you're doing, especially now, you need a job with well-paying. Mr. Oliver, when you give me $300 and I go and I buy a bottle of gas for $40 and then I have $260 to go in the grocery shop, Mr. Oliver, when you come out there, based on the prices of goods in the shelf, you have nothing, you know. So when I get my 9 fortnight, before the next fortnight come, you know that fortnight done already, so I just square one. I must think about it. Have a good morning.
Thank you, caller.
Maybe I should have explained when I said no, we are not increasing the public service. The established staff in the public service will not be increased. But you see an increase in the debushing program, which is a temporary project. You have the wardens that are there to maintain the roads and the environment. And you will see projects like that. These are under projects. I'm talking about the established public servant, the public service. That is where I'm talking about the freeze in employment in the public service. With respect to when students return and they need to find a job, and that has been a problem over the years, that everybody come back want a government job. If you leave university or leave time, you want a government job. Well, the government cannot continue to employ everybody. the private sector. So you qualify now, you can go into the private sector, you can establish your own business. The government will only replace people who retire, replace people who retire, so you do not get that increase in the numbers. And if you want a particular service to be done, the government can offer a contract for service, which does not see an increase in the established position in the public service, but you get the service done. With respect to the public assistance of the $300, that is meant to assist people with no income at all. Because Grenada do not have a state pension where as soon as you reach 60 years, the state give you a pension. We do not have that. So this public assistance is to help the vulnerable people. But that should not be the only thing. You depend solely on it. Now, if we're helping you with the $300 and you find a job, then you will be able to take care of yourself. And therefore, you should move out of the program because you have a job now and let the other vulnerable people come into the program to get some assistance. The intention is to, after a time, so you help people, you see the students to pay their way to go to school, and when they graduate, they come out of the program. Similarly, if you're getting this assistance and you find a job or your condition has improved, then you should come out of the program and move on. Because the intention is not to keep you there depending on the $300 from the government.
Facebook, are we putting pressure on future governments and generations with these futuristic terms in terms of our loans? And how are our oil and gas prospects?
Any government that come have to pay the loan. We came out, we met the debt to GDP ratio of 108%, and we had to restructure the debt. And there's pay more for debt to bring it down. So any government that come in will have to have a program of managing the debt, because where else the money going to come from? If you grow the economy to the extent where you could collect enough revenue to meet your capital expenditure and meet your needs, fine. But I don't know any country. You know the debt of the United States of America? It's in trillions. So debt is not the problem, you know. The problem is debt sustainability, whether you could sustain the debt. That's what the issue is. Not that you can borrow more money, but how do you manage this debt so that we do not leave the burden? If you keep it under 60%, we are not leaving any burden for the future generation, because that is manageable. That is our aim. And if it were not for COVID, we have brought it down to 50%, which is manageable going towards the future. But at this stage, with COVID and the reduction in revenue, what I want to hear, Blossom, is some alternative. Do not borrow, so tell us what to do. Get some ideas. Let all ideas contend. Put forward your ideas for raising the funds. And we will love to hear some new ideas so that we do not have to borrow, but at the same time, we will get the money necessary to run the country and provide all the goods and all the services and do all the programs and the projects that are necessary without borrowing. You think anybody like to borrow money? Even as an individual, you don't like to go into debt. It's the same thing with the state. But when you reach the situation where you have to borrow to develop the country, and in the issue of building hotels, let me clarify this myth, because I'm surprised what I'm hearing here. Not only from this person, but throughout the country. Listen, first point, the government is not building any hotel. So when you say that we only building hotels and tourism, the government has not built one hotel. If investors looking at where to invest their money, see Grenada as the best place in the world to come and build a hotel, we welcome them. They're coming with their capital. And some of them are using the citizenship by investment program together with their own equity to build hotels in Grenada. We all welcome that. I am very happy to see that investors have chosen Grenada as the ideal place to come and build hotels. When you make this song as government taking money and build hotel, government is not building one hotel. We are attracting investors to build hotels, to invest in Grenada, and they chose to build hotels because they will have to look at the area, the business that will give them the adequate rate of return on their investment. They're investing millions of dollars so that they can get a return on their investment. So what we are witnessing in Grenada is confidence in the government. The way they manage the economy is the peace and stability of Grenada attracting these large investors. They have the money, they can go anywhere else. And you know, in the Caribbean, it's very competitive. Every island in the Caribbean wants new hotels. So you have the Six Senses Hotel. The first Caribbean island that will have a Six Senses Hotel will be Grenada. That's a world-class hotel coming right to St. David's in the rural parish. Traditionally, look at the south. Everybody wants to go to the south. But if we move the investment towards other parishes to create the jobs there, like St. Patrick's, get to the hotel, so people from St. Patrick's could walk right there. That is how you will see the reduction in unemployment and the reduction in poverty, because people will be staying right in their own area and earning a decent wage and a decent living, a decent standard of living. So that is what I want to clarify. It's not the government building hotels. Investors having confidence in the country and coming to invest.
Minister Joseph, thank you so much for being our guest this morning. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Continue to stay safe.
Thank you.
And if I don't see you for the rest of the year, compliments of the season.
Thank you, and you too. Stay safe and enjoy your Christmas Eve.
I will try my best to do that. Thank you. Minister of Foreign Affairs Oliver Joseph, our guest this morning. We thank him so much for coming on to the program and just shedding a little light on the budget, which was presented by Minister of Finance last week, Wednesday. Thank him once again. And thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning in. I know there are questions on the Facebook and WhatsApp that I have not gotten to as yet. The phones are ringing, but in the interest of time, we need to end the program here because Joseph and Janelle are up next with the Christmas Caravan, and I need to make way for them. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, God willing. Continue to have yourselves a safe, productive Wednesday. Wear your masks, walk with your hand sanitizers, and be COVID-19 smart. Have a good one, everybody.
Through the years.
My name is Richard Stevens, representing right now for GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network. This is where it's at. Taking it to